Hi, welcome to my channel. If this is your first time joining me, I'm really glad you found me. And if this is not your first time, thanks for coming back. Today's video is part 3 of my planner retrospective, where I do a flip of planners I've used in the past. The other two parts are on my channel. One is a flip of my Happy Planner, and one is a flip of my 18-month Erin Condren. So those are available if you are interested in looking at those. Part 3 of this retrospective really should be about the year or so that I spent using traveler's notebooks. But I gotta be honest, all those different books, I didn't keep track of all the little booklets very well, and it would be really hard to do that. So I'm kind of skipping over my TN days and going right to this beauty, which was the B6 Stalogy that I used from September 2019 to October of 2020. So here she is. And I have to say, I loved using this notebook as my planner, and as I was preparing for this video and flipping through and thinking about what I wanted to highlight in it, it was reminding me how much I enjoyed this planner system. So I really love this cover. This is from Hand Stitched Leather Tea, and pretty much the entire time that I was in this Stalogy, I was also in this cover. I love this cover. And if I ever go back to using a B6 Stalogy, this is the cover I will use. So let's jump right in. So one of the things that I love about this, using a notebook as a planner, is how much flexibility you have in using it. So as we go through this flip, you'll see that depending on what was going on in my life or my mood, I changed things up. So I started this book off, first of all, I did do kind of a bullet journal-esque thing here where I had a future log. So I was able to jot down important dates throughout the year. So that was really good to have as part of this. And if I was using a notebook again, I would probably do something similar. So September 2019, I started off with what I consider to be a really traditional monthly view, box, the big boxes, the dates up here, a little room for notes. I did do a Monday start because that's how I do my weeklies, and I like it when my monthly view and my weekly view align like that, they go by the same dates. So I started off with this kind of traditional view, but you'll see as I go through this flip that I did change it as I went along. The other thing that I did that I really liked about this, and again, you're going to hear me say the word flexibility a lot because I really feel like that's what this notebook gave me. This setup here where I had, Monday through Sunday in little, with little boxes, I used this through quite a bit of the planner. So I have this for like day specific things. I guess at some point I was tracking meals and stuff. For day specific things, and then this was sort of like a brain dump of sometime this week things I needed to do. And then what I really liked was just, I am a day-by-day planner. I don't really plan my week really detailed out ahead of time. And so what I like about using a notebook was that I could just, every day start, put the header up and, write in whatever was going on that day. And I only used as much space as I needed for that day. So you can see like up here, this was really even not really tasks so much, just I guess my daughter was sick that day. So, there wasn't too much here, but then Friday I had like, a whole ton of stuff I was doing. So I just really liked the flexibility of only using however much space I needed to accommodate that day. I have a thing about like wasted space. I'm okay with white space in a planner, but like having blocks that are set aside and then not using them, sometimes I don't like that. So I really love the flexibility of that. And you can see I did that here. That's that week. That's the second part of it. So in that case, I was also working full-time, so it's not unusual in my planner from this point in my life where the Monday through Friday might be a little bit less busy, and then there's more stuff on the weekends. So the other thing I wanted to show you from this particular time in my life was, so at the time that I was using this, I was an instructional coach in an elementary school after a few years of being an elementary school teacher. So anyway, for a hot minute there in 2019, I thought that I might want to get my administrator license. So to prepare for that, I took a couple of classes that you can use toward your licensing requirement. So throughout the fall of 2019, I was taking 2 classes, and what I did in the notebook was I would write down what the assignments were that I had all for the week, and then, so this is kind of like an overview of them, and then I would put them like kind of in order by due dates so that I could keep track of what was due when. And that was really helpful for me to have a notebook, again, with the flexibility to use as much or as little space as I needed in order to track all of that stuff. So, yeah, and I did that pretty much through all of the fall. So then one of the things, again, I'm going to keep saying the word flexibility. By the time December rolled around, I wanted to try something different with my monthly view, and because it was just a plain notebook, I could do that. And I just wanted to play around with, I really don't write a ton on the on the monthly view. So I just kind of wanted to make it maybe a little more decorative. So I just did this sort of like shadowy numbers, and you know, with a really light, I don't know if that was a Tombow, it might have been a mild liner that I used. I can't remember, a long time ago. But anyway, I liked doing that. It was fun to play with that. The other thing I did in 2019, that December, somewhere, I don't know if it was on YouTube or Instagram, but somebody posted a tutorial about how to make these banners, and I just thought they looked really cool. So there were a few weeks here in December and in other parts of my planner too, where I was drawing these banners and I was feeling like I was, you know, doing some deco and doing it myself, and like that was pretty cool. So I did that in December, and you can see here I did that again in this week. One of the other things, again, flexibility, that I really like about using a notebook for my planner is, again, no wasted space. So here's my weekly overview for that week, my assignments for the classes I was taking, and then here you'll see that my first day with any kind of notes on them wasn't until Wednesday. So I'm assuming that like Monday and Tuesday, I just didn't have stuff I had to keep track of. So I didn't fill in days just to have those days in there when there was nothing to put on them. And so again, I really like that. So that was fun. I used to like drawing those banners. Maybe I'll go back to that at some point. Anyway, moving on. So at the end of 2019, I decided that I would do a low buy year for 2020. And I wrote out all of my, kind of like my terms and conditions for myself for what I could spend money on and what I wasn't going to spend money on. Now, at the time that I made this, I thought it would be kind of challenging to do. Because in December of 2019, I had no real idea about what life in 2020 was going to look like. So sticking to my low buy actually ended up being a lot easier than I would have anticipated. Although, you know, if it was the world according to me, I would have struggled with the low buy, and none of us would have had the year that we had in 2020. Anyway, so those were my low buy years, my low buy rules, and I would look back at them occasionally, not so much because I didn't know what they were, because I knew, but I just kind of like to remind myself, like, you know, you set these goals, now you're going to stick to them. So again, going with the flexibility of using a plain notebook as a planner, this is when I started, again, I changed my monthly layout because I realized that I am just not somebody who needs the month on 2-page view. So I decided to give this a shot, more like a list format, and it worked pretty well for me. And I did use something similar for most of the rest of this planner. The other thing I started doing was I started keeping track of when I paid different bills. So I would list the bill here and the date paid, and I'd write like confirmation numbers stuff and stuff like that down for payments, which is, you know, why I have this covered up. So I did that, and then I also started tracking how I did on my low buy. So every month I had basically a one-page month, you know, overview, and then I had my payment log, and I kept track of my low buy. It went, like I said, it went well. I wouldn't mind though if it had been a little bit harder and life had been a little bit easier for all of us at that point. So anyway, that's where I started that layout. And then here, I'm showing you this because this is a point where my weekly layout changed, because again, I was at a point where I don't need this whole, you know, whole section this long broken down by day. That wasn't what my life was like at that point. So I just got this really small weekly overview, and again, I just used, I just wrote down days on, you know, when I actually needed to do something. So like this particular week, I did write stuff down on Monday, and then I didn't look at this again or have any reason to write anything down again until Friday. At the time that I did this, I was working 4 days a week, so I wasn't working on Fridays. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday tended to be my bigger days of having stuff to write down. Then we get to March of 2020, and I have to say that when I started getting ready to do this video, when I got to this point in the planner, I actually started getting a little bit anxious. So I got to remind myself to breathe and that it's not 2020 anymore. So anyway, this was just interesting to me because like this March 2nd through 8th, at this point, I still didn't really have any idea what 2020 was going to look like. What the rest of 2020 was going to look like. So this was sort of a pretty normal week. And then here is when we shut down. Yeah, and so some of this is really messy, but this is some journaling about what was going on. So at the time, like I said, I was an instructional coach. And so a lot of the anxiety was about schools closing and would they reopen, and if so, when, and all that. So this was the week that our governor said that schools would be closed until April 7th. Of course, then the schools ended up being closed for the rest of the school year. But at the time, that was what I knew at the point of writing here. And so the other thing I did in this notebook that I liked, and I didn't do it all the time, but I did like a month in review kind of thing. And it was more of a journaling thing than a planner thing. And this one was, you know, just, it was interesting, like, you know, almost 2 years out from this, looking back at it. You know, so in April of 2020, I left my house 4 times, and I didn't get out of my car, ever. I really didn't go anywhere. At the time, I was at high risk for getting severely ill from COVID because of my weight, and so when they said lockdown, I locked down, and I really didn't go anywhere. So one piece of journaling here, it says, our April spending was under budget. That's a highlight of the month for me and probably the only silver-ish lining to this pandemic. Still, I'd rather be on or over budget and skip the pandemic. Yeah, that's true. So because schools were closed, we were working from home, you know, our life was spent on Zoom, and just because of the way that all went, for the first and only time in my life as a planner, I had life and work in the same planner. I usually keep them separate, and I just didn't need 2 planners at this point. So this was the first week, I think, where I had life and work separated out, but in the same planner. And yeah, again, it's just so interesting to me personally to look back at this, you know, at this volume and see like how different things were. And I'm really glad we're not there anymore. well, not as severe anyway. So then moving on to July of 2020, again, I had gotten to a point where, and again, this was summer vacation, you know, as an educator, you know, July and most of August, we don't have like scheduled work hours, even though most teachers, myself included, do work over the summer. But I didn't need, I just didn't need as much space for the weekly overview. So that's what I had gotten down to. And then I did what I had been doing, which was really a day at a time, and using up as much or as little space as I needed. I like the colors on this one too. I had a couple of examples I could have shown you for weeks that kind of look like this, but I just like this color scheme, so that's why I showed you this one. And then I've only got a couple more pages I want to show you. I sort of missed sticker planning at this point, and I still had, you know, most of my stickers. So I did do 2 weeks of vertical planning with stickers. That was the only 2 weeks that I did that in this planner. And I enjoyed it. It was fun. I had done, you know, years in Happy Planner and Erin Condor where they were vertical. And so this was just fun. It was a nice change. And these are Chrissy Ann Design stickers. That is 2. I guess all these are 2. Yep, these are as well. So those are the only 2 weeks, though, in the whole book that I did this kind of a layout. And it was fun, but then I went back to what I had been doing. And then the last spread I want to show you, because I thought this was funny. So September 14th to the 20th in 2020, I noted that it was 1 year in my Stalogy. So I noted 1 year of using the same planner. And then the other thing, this was one of the few times at that point that I went out into the world because I went to get my flu shot, and I was really scared to go out into a public place. I double masked. It was a thing. So that was one of the few times I actually left the house before I was fully vaccinated. And then that was also the day that Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away, which was an incredibly sad day. Yeah, and so the other thing that I had done in here was I was keeping track of COVID statistics for my state about, you know, where we were in terms of case counts and stuff like that, and like the safety level or whatever. And so I had home, you know, my town, the community where I worked, and then the community where my daughter goes to college. I had also started working out at this point, and this was my little walking log. My workouts have changed. I don't go for as many walks anymore. I do stairs in my house instead. But anyway, so that's the overview of the B6 Stalogy I was in from September of 2019 to September of 2020. You can see from this top view here, I did have a couple other things in here, but it's not stuff I want to show you. I didn't even use the whole book. So I have a lot of pages left. I'm not going to chop them out because I'm afraid the book will fall apart. And I really like having a bound book that has my whole year in it together. That's I think one of the benefits of using a bound book is that nothing really is going to fall out or slip away or anything because it's all in the same book. But I have all these pages left. I don't know if I will ever use them for anything, but if not, you know, that's okay too. Love this book. I loved using this, and as I was flipping through planning this video, I was like, yeah, I really enjoyed using a B6 Stalogy as my planner. And I have to say that I'm absolutely loving my Filofax personal rings that I'm using right now. I love ring planners as well. But as I was flipping through this, I was thinking, geez, you know, I wonder if it's too soon to start thinking about what I'll do in 2023. Anyway, that's a flip of the B6 Stalogy, part 3 of my planner retrospective. If you hung in there that long watching this, thanks so much. I hope you enjoyed it. Please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.